The Disneyverse is made out of dozens of magical kingdoms. However, where they end and where they begin is quite the mystery. Watch until the end to find out how every Disney kingdom is connected and how the world of Descendants comes into play. Are the United States of Auradon the center of the world? Let's go and find out.
What does ice cream taste like?
It's cold and it's sweet. And if you eat it too fast, it gives you a headache.
Disney fans are well aware that their favorite movies take place in an alternate universe. The Disneyverse is made out of numerous kingdoms, and many of them are connected with each other. We know that Queen Elsa and Princess Anna rule over Arendelle, while their cousin Rapunzel is the Princess of Corona. Although these are made-up places, some Disney princesses hail from actual countries, like China and North America. Mulan and Pocahontas live in these areas respectively, but their stories take place on very different timelines. The same can be said about Tiana, who was born in New Orleans, whereas Cinderella, Belle, and the Beast were brought up in France. Aladdin and Jasmine, on the other hand, come from the kingdom of Agrabah, which exudes Middle Eastern vibes. Snow White also hails from a magical and nonsensical land, which is referred to as the Fourth Kingdom. As you can see, each and every Disney movie occurs in its own individual time and place, yet somehow these very different areas were combined into one large country. Descendants fans know that all of these magical worlds were combined into one, but how did the United States of Auradon come to be? And why did everyone agree to be lumped into one single continent? United States of Auradon. The first Descendants film was released in 2015, and it's here that we found out that Auradon was the place to be. Despite its big and enchanting reputation, the United States of Auradon is barely 24 years old. Auradon was said to be the promised land. Still, many inhabitants aren't exactly having a jolly good time. This is made obvious by the fact that the Isle of the Lost is a very real and agonizing place. For centuries, heroes have suffered at the hands of villains, which is why Auradon has such a great appeal. The United States of Auradon is made out of every single Disney kingdom. However, they all appear to be combined and living as one. 18 magical kingdoms were united to create the brand new continent, and it's here that our heroes live in complete harmony. But even the most appealing places have dark faces, which is why after 20 years of peace, villains began planning an uprising. We'll walk you through a play-by-play of every single kingdom and where they're located at the end of this video. We've also got some maps to show you. But before we do that, let's find out which magical being is responsible for uniting these 18 glorious fairy tale kingdoms.
Oh, I understand, but it's more than I ever hoped for.
Fairy Godmother. You guessed it. Our heroes owe their home and safety to the one and only Fairy Godmother. After all, you can't have a fairy tale kingdom without a fairy, right? Many of us remember Fairy Godmother from the classic Disney film Cinderella. It was here that she helped Cinderella transform into a beautiful and well-dressed maiden before sending her off to the ball. Fairy Godmother can sense when people are hurting, which is both a gift and a curse. Without this magical fairy, the United States of Auradon simply wouldn't exist. Fairy Godmother's magic wand can do anything, from turning a pumpkin into a Class A carriage to uniting 18 kingdoms on one single timeline. There isn't anything she can't do. Well, maybe there's one thing. Fairy Godmother can't rid her rivals' hearts of evil. So instead of rehabilitating them, she trapped them on the Isle of the Lost. Despite all of this, Fairy Godmother is a very kind person who wants to see the good side prevail. Sure, she might not be too fond of villains, but she doesn't mind that her daughter Jane is dating the son of Cruella de Vil. In the end, Fairy Godmother can sense when someone's intentions are pure. Still, many of us wonder why she hasn't spent her free time fighting for VK rights. But that isn't the only strange thing about Fairy Godmother. No magic. It's no secret that magic is frowned down upon in Auradon. In fact, heroes were encouraged to hand over their magical artifacts to the Museum of Cultural History. Fairy Godmother knows better than anyone that magic can help those in need while being a whole lot of fun. But for some reason, she stood by Belle and the Beast when they declared that magic should be abandoned. Magic isn't allowed on the Isle of the Lost for obvious reasons, but why wouldn't it be part of Auradon? Fairy Godmother willingly gave up her wand and began living like a normal human being. As the head mistress of Auradon Prep, she instructs her students on how to be good without using outside forces. But as many of us have noticed, there's just no escaping magic. It's everywhere we look, be it Neverland or the Enchanted Lake. It's clear that Belle and the Beast are trying to run a very controlled and peaceful community, but not everyone is meant for the mundane. In fact, fairies like Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather were very upset by the no magic rule. After all, they'd never performed tedious tasks without magic before, so why should they start now? Auradon isn't like any place we've ever seen. In fact, it defies more laws than it follows. Like for instance, how did Fairy Godmother manage to bring people back from the dead? And what price did she have to pay for her actions? Alternate reality. It's common knowledge that mortals should never interfere with the cycle of life. Just because you know the spell doesn't mean you have the right to use it. No one knows this better than Fairy Godmother. Still, she meddled with the afterlife when she brought the villains back from the dead to imprison them on the Isle of the Lost. This excruciating fate roused them from their peaceful slumbers and led them to be imprisoned on a magicless island. Now, if that isn't every villain's version of hell, we don't know what is. The United States of Auradon belongs to a different reality. In fact, some might even call it an alternate universe. Fairy Godmother used her magic powers to pull the kingdoms together, creating a new world with borders. Still, as many of you know, all of the Disney movies take place in different eras. So basically, Fairy Godmother had to bring everyone to the same timeline before infusing their lands. Bringing people back from the grave is definitely black magic, so we're assuming that a price had to be paid. Could this be the real reason magic is no longer allowed in Auradon? Could Fairy Godmother have maxed out her power source by creating an alternate reality? Let us know what you think in the comment section.
Yeah, about that. Right. I'm coming, Audrey!
King Beast and Queen Belle. King Beast used to be a villain. He was rude, stubborn, selfish, and unkind. Heck, he even turned an old lady away during a storm despite having dozens of rooms to offer her. Thankfully, his curse isolated him, thus turning him into the man he was supposed to be. With Belle by his side, Beast began to toy with the notion of the Promised Land. When he married Belle, the couple chose to forego their honeymoon to create the United States of Auradon, with Fairy Godmother's help, of course. Little is explained about the process, but we can only imagine that the Beast and Fairy Godmother traveled to different realms to find out which magical kingdoms wanted to join their nation. Once everyone was in accord, Fairy Godmother used her magic wand to unite the worlds, and Beast and Belle were named King and Queen of Auradon. Princesses and princes were allowed to keep their kingdoms and titles, but they still viewed the Beast's family as number one. But why were Belle and Beast crowned? Sure, uniting kingdoms might have been their idea, but they wouldn't have been able to do so without magic, so why go on to ban it? Pros and cons of the new world. The United States of Auradon might seem like the perfect place to be, but this is only because many issues have been swept under the rug. How could a king who used to be a villain punish VKs and imprison them for their entire lives? This just doesn't seem logical. If Beast didn't want villains to ruin his utopia, why go through the trouble of bringing them back to life? Anyone born on the Isle of the Lost doesn't get a fair chance at life. Instead, they're raised by bitter villains who want nothing more than to be wicked to the core. On the plus side, Auradon is a place of happiness, one where people can roam freely and safely. It is ruled by kind and just people who want the best for their nation. Auradon could have been the perfect place, but civilians were stripped of their powers, which is perhaps the biggest con of all. Imagine knowing that you have magic running through your veins, but not being allowed to use it. There are many pros and cons to living in Auradon, but the good definitely outweighs the bad. After all, who wouldn't want to live within close quarters to every single Disney royal?
Really? I'm guessing you don't have much experience with heat.
Nope.
The map of Auradon. Descendants fans have been curious about the United States of Auradon ever since it first appeared on the map. Whereas the Disneyverse looks a lot like Earth, Auradon is its own place entirely. The United States of Auradon is separated by the Great Wall. There are 11 regions beneath the Great Wall and 7 beyond it. Who's ready to explore the brand new world beneath the Great Wall? First on the list is Cinderellasburg, which is home to Charming Castle and Cinderellasburg City. It's here that Chad Charming grew up and learned to be a pompous royal we all love to hate. North of Cinderellasburg lies Westerly. As its name entails, Westerly makes up the western portion of Auradon. Robin Hood lives in Locksley, which can be found in Westerly. Next up is East Riding, which is commonly known as King Georgetown. East Riding is often compared to London, England, which is where Cruella de Vil comes from. Tangletown and Aurora can be found in the south of Auradon, in a region commonly known as the South Riding. It's here that Rapunzel and Aurora live. Both princesses have their own kingdoms in neighboring cities. Whereas Corona's name was changed to Tangletown, Sleeping Beauty's kingdom was given the name Aurora. Then there's Camelot Heights, which is home to King Arthur and Merlin, who live in Camelot and Pendragon Castle respectively. This part of Auradon is technology-free due to Merlin and Arthur's beliefs. Towering Heights is west of the Summerlands and north of East Riding. It borders Hooks Bay and is known for its most popular location, Bayou des Orleans. This is where King Naveen and Queen Tiana live. However, Rapunzel's tower is also located in the region, which is where the name Towering Heights stems from. Auradon Central is located in the center of the continent and directly faces the Isle of the Lost. It is home to King Adam, Queen Belle, and Ben. However, it also hosts cities like Auradon City, Fortuna, and Belle Harbor. All children attend Auradon Prep, which is located in the capital. Then there is North Wei, which is where Mulan, Li Shang, and Lonnie live. This northern state is made to resemble China, where Mulan is originally from. Snow White and Prince Florian live in Charmington. This state is connected to Shallows Keep by a small bridge. Next up, we've got Olympus, which can be found on top of Mountain Olympus. Olympus is directly above Bayou des Orleans and is where all the gods live. Last but not least is the Isle of the Lost, which is considered to be part of Auradon. Now that we've mapped out everything beneath the Great Wall, let's check out the other side. Beyond the Great Wall. Believe it or not, but Neverland can actually be found in Auradon. However, it isn't attached to the mainland. This is where Peter Pan and the Lost Boys roam, but they tend to keep to themselves. Then there's Lone Keep, which is where Aladdin and Jasmine live. Its most prominent kingdom is still referred to as Agrabah. The furthest part of Auradon is known as the Borderlands, which is where faraway kingdoms exist. We also know that Winter's Keep, Schwarzwald, and Afelotheo are located beyond the Great Wall. However, little information is given about who lives there. Still, we can't help but think that Anna and Elsa live in Winter's Keep, while Moana lives in Afelothea. So there you have it, how every Disney kingdom is connected in Descendants. Which kingdom is your favorite? Let us know in the comment section, and while you're at it, tell us what you think about Auradon. Should heroes be allowed to use magic? Is Auradon really as great as they say it is? You be the judge. We hope you enjoyed our magical video. For more Disney-related content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Before you go, give this video a big thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment. Thanks for watching The Things. We'll see you next time.